All right, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Joining me once again for a conversation about financial markets, what's happening in the world, is my good friend Bob Kudla from Trade Genius Academy. Bob, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Red. How you doing?
I've seen better days, but I'm on the mend. Things are going well. We our last show, we talked about what was going to happen in the future, and I want to talk about that in depth. But for anybody who hasn't seen our segments before, just tell the audience who you are and what Trade Genius does.
Yeah, so at Trade Genius, we educate and we inform and we simplify stock trading and cryptocurrency trading. So, we developed some algorithms over the course of the past half decade that looks at buying pressure and selling pressure. So it allows us to kind of peek into the future, if you will, to see where the money is moving to and moving from. So it allows us to position ourselves into the right sectors. And then once we're in the right sectors, allows us to position ourselves into the right stocks. And what we do is, we kind of teach people how to fish. So we kind of show you how this system works. We give you the toolkit, and in terms of the algorithm indicators are actually something that you can actually use on stocks that you may want to trade or crypto coins that you want to trade. And then we also tell you the trades that we're taking as well. So we kind of throw you some fish as well. And we do that with chat rooms that are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have mobile apps that will then, we can have dialogues with us and where we can communicate what we're doing. And then we have a whole series of training courses and education types of books and webinars in which we help people become more proficient at trading. And so that's what we do. And we've been doing it we're coming up on our 5th year, hard to believe already. And what we like to do is we just kind of help people try to make money nearly every day in the stock market, just doing all the right common sense things that you would expect to do. Try not to be risky and try to teach people, good fundamentals to make money trading.
All right, great. And I hear that you've yet again created a special offer for the listeners of this program.
We did. So if you take advantage of them by Saturday evening, we pre-discounted 6 bundles around the March Madness theme, and that you can, if you're a beginning trader or stocks or cryptos, or if you're a more experienced trader, you can pick and choose what you want to trade or what package you want to take advantage of. And if you want to just pick anything individually in the store, you can do that and just use the promo code March. TradeLikeAGenius.com or TradeGeniusAcademy.com gets you there. You can call us, you can email us, you can chat with us, and we'll hook you up.
All right, sweet. So obviously all that information is going to be in the pinned comment and in the description below. Sounds like some pretty good stuff to have on your side considering the recent downturn the market has taken. How have the subscribers of Trade Genius done with this latest panic that we've seen on Wall Street?
Well, I think everybody's a little shocked at the severity of the move. I mean, we had basically a 35% down move in oil. We've had 15% down moves in the stock market. Even gold and silver have done fine, but the miners have struggled. So it's been a bit turmoil for everybody just because of the speed of the movement. But we use that to educate people on making sure you're sizing your trades properly, using good stop management, and also don't be afraid to step back in when the market overreacts to the downside, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about today. So there's opportunities to buy. Like we took advantage of oil crashing, and we've been buying yesterday. We're sticking our toes back in the water on the gold and silver miners today. And in fact, towards the end of the day, we had a reversal in the stock market where everybody thought the world was ending. And Trump's going to speak tonight. And you and I are talking Wednesday. So whenever this airs, so Wednesday night he's speaking, and the PPT met, and next week the Fed moves. So I think you're going to see some stability come back into the market. So that's where we are, and really it's become really binary. It's the ability of the Fed to provide liquidity back into the markets that will determine whether or not we continue to fall hard or we get some sort of relief rally to everybody get not being so woozy.
Now, I think it's pretty clear that all of this is due in large part to CV-19, we'll call it. Hopefully that'll make it through the algo. But are there any other things going on behind the scenes? I mean, is this simply a reaction to, what seems to be a global panic, or are there other things that are not as obvious that are kind of controlling it?
Yeah, so actually there's three things that came together at the same time. So it wasn't the virus so much as China's reaction to the virus that really set this whole thing in motion. So they shut down 20% of their country, and they basically killed oil demand. And so that kind of started setting things into motion in terms of what is that going to mean to supply chains? And you and I kind of spoke about that a little bit last month. And you're starting to see those disruptions now, but it became incredibly evident last Sunday when Saudi Arabia and Russian Federation decided to get into a production war with each other and drove the price of oil down 35% from last Thursday. Absolutely unheard of. In fact, even the stock market moved unheard of. These moves have been unprecedented, primarily because we pushed up so high. And so you had the oil market, and I tell people, look, the oil market is the reason why the stock market crashed early in the week, because that set things in motion. The oil market and the stock market are kind of interrelated. So if the oil markets are doing well, the stock market's going to lift, and vice versa. And when the oil markets crashed, it forced traders to actually sell their stock positions because they had margin calls. And then in addition to that, then you start selling to stop the panic from selling, and you just create even more selling. So it creates its own weather, and then you just end up with a panic. And so the other thing that happened is that, and you and I may have talked about this before, but the Japanese and the Europeans have been using their currencies basically to fund purchases into the United States and our assets. So they create currency out of thin air because their interest rates are lower than ours. And they basically, it's called a carry trade, Red, where then they can use counterfeit currency to buy real assets. And so, that's why Trump's been railing against this for so long. I wish he would explain people reason why you don't want the dollar so strong when you have an interest rate differential. Everybody thinks he's just complaining. You actually had European companies go ahead and buy American companies using bonds that they know that their ECB would buy off of them. So to get in a risk-free trade of buying a strategic asset for themselves, that further hollows out America. The Chinese have been doing it, the Japanese have been doing it, the Europeans have been doing it. But last week, the Fed went ahead and dropped interest rates 50 basis points and killed that carry. And they're going to drop it again next week because, believe it or not, interest rates are still too tight, in terms of liquidity. And so that's gone now. So that flushed all those traders out of the market too. So we had a perfect storm. And in America, we had a couple hot spots come up in Seattle and in New York and in New Hampshire / Boston and in Santa Clara. And all of a sudden, then people are saying, oh, we started shutting everything down. So that's what hit this week. And so now, I'm here to say that we're going to start seeing some momentum, pendulum swinging back to some more rational, people. This is the first social media virus, and it's a political virus. And you literally can see in social media who hates Trump and who likes Trump by the way in which they're responding to the virus. It's become political. And it was good to see, believe it or not, Gavin Newsom said, hey, don't try to drive sunlight between President Trump and myself. I had some real concerns, and he stepped up, and I want to commend him and his team for that. You're going to start seeing more of that because I think fear is now gripping people, and they're like, hey, we all can go down if we don't get this thing under control and get the narrative back to, more proactive action versus hoping something happens because it's Trump. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course, yeah. So what actions have the Fed taken? They dropped the interest rate by 50 basis points. How much are they going to be doing it next week when they do it again?
I personally don't know. I'm not a good guesser with them, but I've been hearing rumors that they may even take it down to the zero bound.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to do something, and they have to drive costs out of for the regular person. In fact, today I was telling people in our room that for months, I used to get like the 0% things, hey, transfer balance or use the money however you want, that kind of stuff. And it kind of went away for like a year. All of a sudden, yesterday and today, I started getting hit with the bank saying, hey, you want some money at 0%, which is telling me that they're probably getting some sort of okay from the banking, supervisories, at the federal government saying, hey, you need to start lending again. We'll take care of things behind the scenes. And so I'm thinking that they're going to probably try to unclog the lending and trying to get interest rates down lower for people, so that they can go and create what's called velocity red. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to see QE probably come back, and you'll probably see at some point what they'll do is they'll actually cap interest rates like they did during World War II, saying, you know what, interest rates will not go over this amount. We'll basically be the buyer at that level, and so I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff. And believe it or not, I'm not a Fed fan, but I'm also not a fan of suicide. Is that, they'll put whatever they have to on the federal balance sheet, literally probably for the next 9 to 10 years to get the baby boomers through their cycle. So people need to be prepared for that. We may not have any kind of growth in this country because of that, because it's demographics. So they're going to do that. They'll prefer that over us trying to cleanse the system. And they figure, hey, we'll cleanse it after the baby boomers roll over, where we'll be generating more tax receipts than we'll be paying out in social mandates. And that would be my guess what they're going to do, because the alternative for them means that central banks around the world are out of business. And I don't think they want to do that.
They're not going to want to give that up too lightly.
No.
Now, I was reading an article earlier today about the possible moves that President Trump might announce tonight. And I was just wondering if you had any insight into what he could potentially do with, increased presidential powers. If he declares a national emergency, then obviously it really broadens the number of moves that he could make.
Yeah, so I think he's been pretty transparent as to what he wants. I think that he correctly identified the problem, that it's really a solvency issue for people if they can't have access to credit lines. Mm-hmm. And so he's looking at the industries that are being shut down because of the virus, and he's going to lifeline those companies, basically giving them the liquidity they need to run nominally until people are taking cruises again or flying in airplanes again. And he's also taken a good hard look at the oil industry, which is really interesting, because a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a bailout. But what people don't understand is that Russia and Saudi Arabia do not want a self-sufficient oil industry in the United States. Mm-hmm. And so Trump correctly identified the fact that they're trying to kill our industry off. So he said, hey, I'll directly lend to these guys, and that will stabilize oil. It sounds great. Hey, I want $20 oil. I would love $20 oil too, if I also could produce $20 oil here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And so if we can stabilize at a lower price, because these drillers now can get access to cheaper loans, they're paying high yields right now. We can operate in the $30 range in these areas, 40s for sure, but it's still too low for a lot of the mischief makers overseas to have a lot of money running. So I think you're going to see something there. I think they probably have come to an understanding with the Fed now that I think they know. I think Trump's been correct there. It's amazing if people can just get past his rhetoric and listen to what he has to say. They'll find that he's pretty right on a lot of stuff. And so the Fed was too tight. The Fed screwed up when they raised interest rates. The Fed was stupid not to match what the Europeans and the Japanese were doing. So, now all that, I think he won that war with the Fed, and now they're going to focus on the fiscal side. Look, the Democrats and he have come to some sort of detente. He's not talking to them. He's sending Pence and Munchin over there to those guys, and they'll work it all out. And they know that they can't really stymie him, because they're the ones that are going to get whacked at election time, because he's out there talking about this stuff nonstop, very eloquently, I may add. So I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see I think he's going to lose the payroll tax thing. To be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of that either. I think it's a hard message to sell to people, but it's certainly you're going to see people that if you're in an industry that you're going to lose your job, you're going to probably see that you're going to get some sort of sick pay from the government. Maybe even match your wages where you are.
Wow.
And things like that. So we'll probably see something along those lines, and we'll also see a whole series of loans that'll come out, and I think you'll probably see a relaxation around the mortgage lending as well, so that people can drop their mortgage rates as well. The whole thing now, Red, is we need what's called velocity in the economy, and we need enough credit to flow through to make it work out. For the purists out there that are looking to cleanse the system, it's one of those things. Just be careful what you ask for, because you may go down the same drain.
Definitely not what we want to see. So do you think what Russia and Saudi Arabia did, do you think that was targeted at the United States? I mean, gas prices are below $2 a gallon right now, and I've seen it as low as $1.85. Pretty cheap gas.
Yeah.
But what, did they do that because they knew that we wouldn't be able to match that pricing?
They did it because they thought maybe we'd be preoccupied with the coronavirus.
Okay.
Not be able to react, and they figured if they could bankrupt our industry, maybe they could come in or have others come in and grab the assets on the cheap, like the Brazilians did with farmland during the last crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, I don't think they expected Trump just to come out the next day and say, "Hey, we're just going to directly lend to the producers." In the past, everybody would be like not knowing what to say. He just went out and just said it.
Yeah.
He's the guy that says, "Hey, what's that smell?" In the room. And so next thing you know, it, Russia and Saudi Arabia are saying, "Oh, maybe we can probably come to some sort of terms on production," because Trump says, "Hey, screw you. We'll keep producing. I'll back these guys."
Good stuff.
We're going to have self-sufficiency in the United States. You're not going to take us out. So he understands the economic games that have been playing.
All right, good stuff. So in the long run, do you think President Trump is going to be right on this CV-19 situation? He said it's really not going to be that big of a deal. Obviously it's going to be affecting the markets, but it's going to go away in the spring, and then we're not going to hear much about it anymore.
So let's look at it from a math standpoint. There's a law out there called Farr's law that basically says, we call it the Eiffel Tower effect in trading, is what goes up comes right back down. When you have what you call these parabolic moves, it's a parabola.
Mm-hmm.
And so viruses operate under parabolas for a lot of reasons. One is because there's only certain windows seasonally which they can be effective, right? It has to be cold and dry. We're leaving cold and dry. And if you also notice, the outbreaks are along the same latitude around the entire world. Iran and northern Italy and Spain and New York and California and Seattle, Japan, Korea, Wuhan, are all in the same latitude.
Wow.
Okay, people that, if you're a visual person, that should be like, whoa. And then why isn't it in Mexico? So why is Singapore already over?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you're already starting to see that it's already starting to work its way through in Korea. Only so many people can get affected or infected, no matter how vicious this thing is. Its infection rate, just because you get infected doesn't mean you become symptomatic. If you don't become symptomatic, you may not cough or spit enough to send it to somebody else. And so eventually it just runs out of targets. And the third thing is that, look, the way Korea has dealt with this versus Italy, we need to understand what Italy is doing wrong, or what's so different about that virus that's making it so deadly. Is that the Koreans went strong in with antivirals,
Mm-hmm.
and the United States has the same protocols. So even if people get sick, and the last thing is our density is not the same, and our people aren't as old.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just look at the math, Reddit, it just says it can't get as bad here as other places. However, in this environment, the social media environment, this snowflake environment, it's every death and every infection is like the coming of the Black Plague. And, in 2009, 20,000 people died before President Obama declared it a national emergency. Here we have 100 dead, and we're shutting the country down. So and then you get in April and May, and the virus can't really survive. So you have all those things coming at you. And so I think Trump is right. The only problem with President Trump is that because he's simplistic in the way he communicates, sometimes it comes across as glib.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people kind of react to that because they're like, hey, you're talking about lives here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's trying to be, hey, let's calm down. But sometimes, and you've probably been in these situations before. I don't want to be calm. You know what I mean?
Right.
So people want to have more of a reassure me in other ways. Just don't tell me it's going to be okay. I'm sitting there with a broken leg. You're telling me how you're going to fix the leg. Just don't tell me that eventually I'll walk again.
Right.
So but I think you're dealing with some of that. And I think tonight he's probably going to do that. And, he's pretty effective when he does these things. So I think he'll be fine.
I think that President Trump does a pretty strong job on communicating for brevity. He doesn't end up waxing philosophical on too much stuff. He's got an idea, he puts it out there, and then kind of just lets the rest of the world sort it out. So, I tend to agree. I think things are going to be all right. There's nothing wrong with preparing, but I have seen a lot of people telling me that, in terms of the supply chain we were talking about, toilet paper, paper towel, just completely cleaned out of Sam's Club and Costco and Walmart, places like that. What do you think we're going to do for things like that? I mean, is it possible that the United States could start beefing up those industries as well and helping them to produce more? Or is this just something people are just going to have to worry about a little bit for a couple more months?
I don't know. I went to the grocery store today, and there was toilet paper on the shelves. There's paper towels on the shelves. There, the stores were stocked. I went to Smart and Final over the weekend. They said the weekend before they ran out. I walk into the store yesterday there, and floor to ceiling toilet paper, floor to ceiling water bottles. So I think the supply chain got into action. I'm sure Procter & Gamble, they're running 24/7 at their paper products division, and all the water companies are. So I think what will scare people is that they start shutting cities down. Then I think we'll see the real panic. I think everybody's been trying to avoid that. Even Governor Cuomo won't call it a lockdown. He calls it a containment zone because that has connotations. And look what happened in University of Dayton yesterday. They just announced that they want to send these kids home, and the kids erupted, and they didn't call it a riot. They just poured into the streets, a spontaneous act of anger, and the cops way overreacted to that.
Yeah.
And I said, now you put that into a city where people that are poor don't tend to plan well. I mean, literally live. What am I going to have for dinner when they wake up in the morning? To saying you can't leave your house.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's not going to end well. So they're going to have to figure out another way. Then you're going to see panic.
All
okay,
right.
so as long as they avoid that, look, I'm sure they've been listening to you for months. Anybody listens to me, I'm stacked. I live in earthquake country, so I'm running at 60 days all the time anyway, because at any given moment I can wake up and be stuck in this house for a month.
Right.
So virus or no. And so we just operate under those scenarios. And I think it's good for people. I think this is kind of, in a way, if it doesn't get too bad, good wake up call. I think the supply chains are going to come back to the U.S. People are going to save and put a little more cash in their homes. I think you're going to see people be a little bit more cautious. I think people are going to be more community oriented. And if you start seeing some of the retracements you see with Newsom and Trump, and some people say, hey, we should probably get along to get some things done for the country. It's okay to disagree, but don't be so darn disagreeable, and I think that'll all come out good. So I'm optimistic, not to say that this thing can't double or triple from here, but we're 330 million people and we have 1,000 people infected.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get some perspective here.
I completely agree with you there, Bob. All right, so I'm thinking good news as well. It's just a bit of a storm we've got to wade through, and in the end, it's all going to pan out. All right, Bob. Well, anything else that you want the audience to know?
No, I just think I think it's just going to be really interesting. Just let things play out for the next month or two. I think we'll probably have to get through the June quarter of the financials for a lot of this stuff to shake out. And then I think we'll probably have a decent run into the election. And then in 2021, people probably need to start thinking about, a recession is probably likely because you don't have this kind of damage without some sort of lingering effect. And then I think that's how it's going to play out.
All right, excellent. Well, Bob, once again, thank you so much for coming by. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate the information you gave us.
Thanks for having me, and be well.
You do the same. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. I just wanted to say one more thing. Thank you very much to all my patrons. Thank you to everyone who supports this channel. If anyone wants to help out, there are links in the description of this video below. Please make sure to subscribe to my backup channels in case anything happens here. I will begin publishing there. And if you guys have any questions or tips for me, please send me an email at redpill78@protonmail.com. Also, don't forget to make sure that you have notifications turned on for this channel. When you go to my channel page, there is a little bell. Click that bell and choose all notifications. And if you don't have one already, go sign up on Twitter and follow me there and make sure that your notifications are on. Because even if you don't get a notification from YouTube, I always have a notification that goes out on my Twitter page that lets you know every time I put out a new video. I look forward to reading your messages. I look forward to getting the news to you on a daily basis. And I look forward to seeing you all again in the next episode.